at the bottom. One will be a Q&A button. That's a great place where you can ask a question for Dr. Baird. We usually answer those questions at the bottom and the top of the hour. Right next to that is the chat button. It's a great way to interact with me. We're having some interactions in the chat right now, so I hope you'll join us over there. I will certainly do my best to find any resources that Dr. Baird speaks about and grab them from the internet and put them right there in a nice, easy, digestible link for you over there on the side so you can have those resources with you. We will be recording today's episode. We are recording right now. And we will send you a link that you can also share with your team members, peers, anybody you think might benefit from this content. We are there for you. We also will include a plethora of links inside that email where you can click, learn things about from PPE to some articles that Dr. Baird has written to subscription to his podcast. So there will be a lot of good resources in there. Poll questions, we have a poll questions up right now. If you take about 5 seconds of your time, go ahead and click some of those answers and we'll read the poll results during the presentation. But without further ado, happy Monday, everybody. And Dr. Baird, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Went up to the office and saw a couple patients this morning. Put in an all-on 5 on the lower and an all-on 5 on the upper, and everything went well. I think it's really good news. Our office has been open now for 3 weeks, and we are not quite to pre-pandemic numbers, but we're really close. We're probably at 90%. So. And patients, the real exciting thing for me is that patients are coming in and they're, they seem great. I mean, the extra precautions we're taking, but around Texas, at least around Granbury, Texas, patients just don't seem too worried. They're very appreciative of all the things that we're doing, the added PPE and the added, wearing the masks and the drapes and everything else. But I don't see it as being something that's going to really be a negative effect. I mean, I think a net positive, the things that we're doing. So, but today we're going to talk about why transition to fee-for-service. And I've had this question a lot, well, right now with PPE costs and everything else, and the need to see less folks or the potential to see less people, how is that going to survive in that PPO environment? But let's go through that and just I'll share with you my thoughts about it. There's 3 basic dental insurances: the indemnity insurance, which is and then you've got your DHMOs, dental health maintenance organizations. Those have kind of faded in the past. I'm really not going to talk about those. And then there's the PPO, preferred provider organization or network. Dental indemnity insurance began in the 1960s. It's a type of fee-for-service plan that lets you see any dentist you want. However, your insurance company only pays for care after you submit the claim. We know all about that. This means that you have to pay for the cost of care up front and then send your claim to the insurer for reimbursement. Many dentists take assignment of reimbursement. We do in our office. I consider us an 100% fee-for-service practice, but we take assignment of reimbursement. PPOs. In the 70s, preferred provider organizations began changing the rule of fee-for-service care. PPOs steer employees to cooperating doctors, dentists, hospitals that have agreed to a predetermined plan for keeping costs down. How did PPO get formed and by whom? PPO was formed in an effort to compete with the HMOs originally, with physicians and hospitals. PPOs came in later into the dental industry, and it became kind of the way people were doing things. Is it worth getting dental insurance for patients? The majority of people who pay premiums for dental insurance far underutilize it anyway. Dental policy premiums can range from anywhere from $150 to $600 a year, with an average of around $300 a year. If you go to the dentist only twice a year for cleanings, you'll likely save money by simply paying for cleanings out of pocket. And membership plans are becoming very popular, kind of in opposition to the PPO plans. What is a fee-for-service dental practice? Dentists set their own fee schedule based on what we think those services are worth. Many dentists who are using fee-for-service use insurance reimbursement tables to get their fees. That's how we did it initially. And we would look at it on a kind of an ongoing basis. We'll send you a link to where you can get that information for your area. But that's how we kind of started to see what are insurance companies covering in this area. And you can set your fee at the 50th percentile. That means you're in the middle of the road for fees in your area. Or you can set your fee at the 80th percentile. We've always kept ours in the 80th to 90th percentile. Why? Because we have more equipment, better office. I want to have higher fees. I can see less people and make more profit with higher fees. Many fee-for-service practices accept the regular indemnity insurance, like I was saying a minute ago, and many fee-for-service practices accept out of PPO network patients because they're not tied to any discounted reimbursement tables. We call that in our office, we are when somebody calls us up, we say we're an unrestricted provider. We can see patients from any insurance company. Now, it may be out of network for you, Ms. Johnson, but we see everybody. And that has worked great for us over the years. The fee-for-service practice usually has less overall patient flow because of higher fees, and the fee-for-service practice usually has higher profits. Let's just look at comparing PPO practices and fee-for-service practices. And this is stuff, it's more from a knowledge base. I just want you to understand what's happening when you're involved in a PPO. A PPO really is only a marketing company with some insurance, $1,500, but it is literally just marketing to employers and getting them to sign up, and then signing up dentists saying, we're going to send you free patients you're not going to have to pay for. But we'll show you how that works. Choose your own fees. The PPO chooses the fees for you. Fewer appointments to net the same amount of money. No question. There's more appointments to net the same. Market your services out to the area you want to service. PPO brings new patients to the practice. Markets at 8%. At Productive Dentist Academy, which is a company I started 16 years ago, we recommend marketing at 8% of the previous month's revenue. And I've been doing that for 25 years. When we were doing $100,000 a month, that meant I had an $8,000 budget for marketing, which the average dentist is about 1.6%. We're marketing at 8%. When my practice grew to 150,000, we now were spending 12,000. When it grew to 200,000, we were now at 16,000. When it grew to 324, and on, until now, we were in the 400 to 500,000 range. Now we have a marketing budget of $32,000 plus, which happens to be more than anyone in my community. And we have a lot of people that are signed up for PPOs and everything else. Let's look at what happens. The cost of the new patient is a 30 to 40% discount on your fees. Higher overhead, lower overhead. Now let's compare with just straight cash paying customers. Okay. 100,000 in production, marketing of 8%, where you have a marketing write-off of 35%. They have a cash pay write-off of 5%, or whatever you decide, 3 to 5, whatever. So both are writing off a cash discount. The total collectible is $87,000 for the fee for service, whereas the total collectible for the PPO is actually $60,000. The national average collections, this was in dental economics last year, was 93.5%. So with a fee for service practice at the average collections, which I think is horrible, but you're going to collect 81,000. In the PPO, you're going to collect 56,000. So that is a $25,000 differential, $25,000 difference in doing 100,000 in production. Let's look at third-party financing. You have 100% in production, same thing, marketing write-off. Third-party write-off of 10%. Remember, if it's $10,000 worth of work, they're going to do 9. They're going to give you 9,000. So we're looking at this as saying they're going to do all 100,000 with the PPO. Total collectible of 59,500 compared to 90. And that is a fee-for-service PPO collection differential of over $30,000. And then you've got your pay-as-you-go customers, similar thing. I just want you to see that's even more. It goes up to $32,000 differential. That's a lot of marketing dollars that you could be spending that you're giving up. So how does a PPO survive? By high volume. Owner doctors hire associates at 22 to 28% of collections. The owner doctor pays using a 25% average. Let's just use that as an average. The associates on between the 56,000 times 25%, which is 14,000, 168K a year, or 14% of the dentistry. So the dentist is producing, let's just say it's the associate producing $100,000 worth of dentistry, being paid 25% of the reduced amount. They're not getting 20 to 28%. They're getting 14% of the dentistry the associate produced. And the same thing goes for others. So why do associates work in PPO practices? To build confidence. I went in the U.S. Army. I was in the Army and built confidence, built my clinical skills and my speed. And a lot of associates are in such debt, they cannot afford to open a practice, and they don't want the hassle of running a practice. Huge student debt. So here's two scenarios. So what do I do if I can't afford to open a practice? And many of you already have practices, whatever. I'm going kind of back to the basics. So if you can't afford to open a practice, become an associate for a set period of time in your mind. Think about it. I want to be an associate for 3 to 5 years. During that time, build your confidence, build your skills and speed, work hard and study business skills and marketing. I implore you to get out, and there's so many good courses and books to read, and there's a lot of people out there that are willing to help you. Put away as much money as possible. Just literally sock it away. Don't get the huge house and the Lamborghini. Just look at this as a 5-year period. Begin a relationship with a smaller community bank, meaning get a good relationship with a banker who's going to be there 5 years from now. Save. So what do I do if I can afford to open a practice? Well, I'm going to share it with you. Again, look into financing at a community bank or a large national bank. Read all the fine print. Consider a standard SBA loan. They have 504 debentures. They have multiple different kinds of loans that are available. It takes a little longer, but that's what I did when I opened Granbury Dental Center 36 years ago, because I didn't have a lot of money. Work with your team. There's lots of help out there to learn the best way for a startup practice. Jamie Amos with idealpractices.com. Great guy. And they can really help you kind of get off on the right foot. Plan from the beginning when you open your practice to put 8% in your budget for marketing. Now, I'll tell you, you're going to use it a little differently than marketing, but put the budget in. As your practice grows, your budget grows. For cash reasons, I have no problem with you signing up with a few PPOs first 5 years, okay? Spend your marketing budget, 2% for actual marketing. So you've got some PPOs bringing people in, you need cash, spend the marketing budget 2% to start getting out in the community. Another 2% for online coaching and education, and 4% on CE courses that will increase your diagnostic skills. So put away the 8% and use it for a few different things, okay? CE, online coaching, that kind of stuff. And you're going to be way ahead of the game. At the end of 3 to 5 years, systematically eliminate the PPOs and use the 8% for coaching and marketing. So what you're doing is you're transitioning from this beginning practice to this more mature practice. You now have gone to courses like John Coyce and Spear and wherever, you've gone to Arun Garg and Mission Implant Institute. You've actually gone out and picked up some higher end skills. This is going to allow you to produce at a much higher level. And that's what I like. And that's what I love seeing. Let's take a look. I'm going to pull this up, and I am going to end our poll, and I'm going to share the results with you guys. Let's take a look here. Do you have plenty of PPE to last for 1 month? 67% of you said yes, and 33% said no. That's kind of flipped. 2 weeks ago, it was just the opposite. Antibody tests, not many people have those. And I think North Carolina just approved their docs to be able to do them. But the question is, where do you get them? And have you invested in new filtration UV systems for your practice? I love seeing that. 57% yes, 43% no. So that kind of gives you an idea of kind of what's going on. Stephen, do we have any questions up to
Yeah,
this?
we have a great question from Dr. Sherlock over in the chat, and it actually says, this is in context to Abella and compassionate finance. So is there an integration with PMS systems that are, or are there limits to which PMS platforms? So which practice management systems do we work with for compassion and Abella?
We work with 95% of the softwares that are out there. We've learned of a few that we don't know about, but it doesn't matter. Even if we don't integrate and go into your software, we'll teach you how to run a report that you can plug into Abella. It takes 2 extra steps, but you can still use Abella. But it is much easier if you have a software that can be integrated. And like I say, we integrate in with 95%.
All right, great. And he asked, the other great question is, what is the implementation fee and what is the timeline to get started?
The implementation fee?
I don't believe we have one right now.
Well, the good news, both for Abella, which is an account receivable software, and for compassionate finance, which we're going to talk about next, both of them, we waived the setup fee, which was $1,500 for compassionate, $1,000 for Abella. During this pandemic, we've waived them, so we're not even charging, and we're not charging the $299 a month and the $199 a month for Abella and for compassionate until July 1st. So it really is a no risk, no obligation. In particular with Abella, you can start collecting. We've collected over $1.5 million for doctors who have signed up over the last 8 weeks, who actually didn't even have their team present. They weren't even in the office. So the training is very, very easy. Compassionate finance, we actually have docs that have started using the compassionate since in Texas, we started back May 1st. So that's been 3 weeks. And what's interesting is, you look across the country now, a lot of people are getting back to work and they're using compassionate finance. Our numbers at Compassionate are almost up to our pre-corona, or as Howard Farran said last 30 BC, before corona, we're up back to almost our BC levels with the amount of loans that are being done. So, but I felt like it was really important to be able to have that opportunity, not charge the setup fees. We have our team, most of our team is working from the house, from home, and it's been great. We've signed up more people for compassionate finance and for Abella in the last 8 weeks than we have in the last year. So, and it's been a great opportunity. So let's, any other questions you have, Stephen?
Yeah, we had one more follow-up from Dr. Sherlock here. So he just asked if payments post directly to his bank account or do they go into the practice management system?
With Abella, they go straight into your software. So it's integrated straight in, it's bi-directional. If a patient came and paid you in the office and didn't pay through the portal with Abella recognizes that the next time it does a data dump, and it will not send statements out to that person. So it's really, really great software, very intuitive and very easy to use.
Yep, absolutely. And Dr. Nichols, Dr. Sherlock, anybody else who had some interest in finding out some more information or possibly even signing up for that free trial, I put that link for offer over there in the chat. If you just click through that, couple clicks, fill out a little bit of brief information, take about 20 seconds, shoot that right on over, and we'll get all set up with you today. And we actually have another question, Dr. Baird, coming in. This is going to be an interesting one. The San Francisco County is now requiring all dental practices, all dental patients requiring aerosol procedures to get tested 0 to 7 days before the procedure date. What are your thoughts on this, since there are no testing kits available?
I think it sucks. I really do. I think it sucks. I think that's the government taking over and trying to control something that they have no business meddling in. first of all, we've been the best there is in business as far as PPE and taking care of our patients ever since the AIDS, AIDS came to the surface in the early 80s. So I'm not concerned about a patient getting COVID-19 from us, and I'm not concerned really about us getting it from a patient. We take temperatures. They're staying in the parking lot. They're following through with all the things that we talk about. And truthfully, I think it's a whole bunch of hype. I'm certainly 100% comfortable going in the office and doing any procedure I want now. And with the sheer numbers that are out there, and I'm somebody who is 64 years old that has had a history of some heart issues. But I still feel so confident in our measures and the way we're doing things. I just think it sucks for you guys out there. And I think it sucks for some in Michigan. And, you go around the country and you've got politicians making this a political deal, not a common sense deal. It's happened some in California also. So I'm 100% confident, and and once you go back, you're going to realize your patients are confident in you. You guys are the ones that have been wearing your masks and wearing gloves for 30 years. And so we're doing the right thing. And hopefully I would send letters. I would do everything I could to get that overturned, because it's not going to make a difference. You test them 1 to 7 days and they get 1 to 7 days. What if you did it 7 days ahead? They're clear, and then they get exposed on, on the 7th day before they come see you. It's just stupid. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, I agree. I know we have some doctors from Michigan in the chat today.
Yeah.
So it is. I think we're starting to see the folks who are not yet able to open up and practice are the ones who are still able to join us at this time.
Right.
All right. I have another good question that came in. Any recommendations for a dentist looking to sell to a DSO and retiring in the practice? How do you find the right one and get the best price?
Great question. 8 years ago, I sold my practice to Heartland. And many of you know that, or most of you do, but I sold to Heartland 8 years ago. It really depends on where you are in your career. I was 56, 57 years old, and I decided to sell. I had a $5 million practice that with one partner, and we just made the decision because early on it was Obamacare and all of this new stuff that was coming down the pipe that was going to affect us. So I think there's reasons to go that route. I worked for the last 8 years for Heartland at a 25% of my production. Now, I will tell you, I was making 43% when I owned the practice. So it was a pretty good hit to my monthly revenue, but I got a big hunk of cash. So when you look at that, you have to make that decision. But there are so many active DSOs. Kind of depends on where you're at. I know we work with Compassionate and with Abella. We work with North American Dental Group, MB2. There's so many that are popping up. And also what you want to do is, if you're considering doing that, don't just talk to one, talk to 2 or 3. That way you can actually look at offers and make some critical decisions looking at different offers from different people. Because some are paying more and some are only taking certain types of practices. That's going to be my suggestion to you at this point. And what's your age? If you're 38 years old, gosh, I would just hesitate. Don't do it. But if you're, and there are a lot of guys out there that are selling in their 30s, but man, the big dollars, and dentistry is not that hard. The management's not that hard once you understand it. But if you're, been practicing 30, 35 years and you want to kind of phase out, perfect.
We're 34 webinars in, Dr. Baird. That's the first time I've gotten that question. So,
yeah,
hey, still new things every day. We got one more, and then we'll go ahead and get started with our next presentation. Do you have a recommendation for a HIPAA filter?
I don't. And we'll send you the links to the ones that we've looked at. So I don't remember offhand what they are. There's a bunch of them. I actually have two being delivered today or tomorrow to my house that are M90s, I think. Or anyway, we'll send it to you. I put a link to it. So sorry about that.
All right, perfect. That sounds great. I'll follow up with that doctor. We'll get them emailed that PPE resource, and I'll let you go ahead and continue on. Some more questions at the end.
Okay. All right. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about, let's look at, this is really interesting. You might answer, if you haven't answered the poll questions, go ahead and answer that one. It'll be interesting to look at. So let's talk about the financial discussion. How will dentistry be affected after COVID-19? There's definitely a pent-up demand for dental services. You got to set up with scheduling, you got to set up some time to be able to see these emergencies, and you have to be prepared to do same-day dentistry. Patients, I promise you, they're going to be holding on to cash. Even people who have lots of cash, they don't know what the future holds, and they're going to set back, and you're going to have some options. Credit is going to be harder to get. Synchrony Financial has said they're going to have whole new ways of looking at it. Today, they had more write-offs. I looked at them online this morning. They've had more write-offs in April, so that means they'll be more restrictive in May. You must be proactive in this new normal. You've got to come up with some new ways of thinking. You just have to, because it's different. It's a new normal. You must have better financial arrangements for your patients. You just have to. You need to understand really the difference between cost and affordability. Learn to make dentistry you're offering affordable. I always ask the question, what kind of car would you drive if you had to pay cash for it? Well, I drive a Lexus LS 460, and it's probably an $85,000 car, but if they told me I had to pay 85 cash, I'd be driving an old pickup. Why? Because I'm used to monthly payments and I like what I drive, and it's just I know I'm getting hosed by my leasing company, but that's the way I want to do it. And that's what happens in America. What kind of house would you be in if you had to pay cash? What kind of big screen TV would you have? What kind of what kind of giant lawnmower, or what, you can go down the list. For every 10 crowns diagnosed, according to Gordon Christensen, and Howard Ferrand last week said 95 out of 100 are done one at a time. They're done 9 out of 10 are done one at a time. Why is that? Well, the dentist diagnoses 5 crowns. Patient says, well, my insurance covered. Have y'all ever heard that? Yeah, well, will my insurance cover this? Team member, they'll cover a portion. Your portion is going to be 3,500. Patient looks at you and they kind of hem and haw. And then they say, well, can we just do one? And your team member, because they don't like conflict, and they said, okay, sure, I'll get you set up. And think about this. The average dentist in the country is doing $425 an hour. If you think about that, that's $3,200 a day, or $3,400 a day. That's not a lot of dentistry, and so you're doing 1 crown at a time. You become the crown of the month club. And what also happens here is, I hear this often, dentists finally quit diagnosing. They just say, look, I know the patient's going to say, can we just do one? So they always go in the mouth and let's pick this one. Which one's hurting? Let's do that one. That's really not going to be the way you're going to be able to do this in the future, because it's going to be longer times to turn over the rooms. You're going to see less patients. You need to have more revenue per patient when you're working. And a lot of people can justify this by saying, oh, well, let's use your insurance this year, and then let's use it next year, and then let's use it the year after. And I've heard dentists go down the line and talk about that. And truthfully, year 3, tooth number 12 that you were going to have an onlay on splits, and now you're doing an immediate implant and a crown, and you haven't helped the patient at all. You haven't saved the patient a penny by doing that. So come up with some different ways, and I'll share with you what we do. But why does this happen? Why do people do that? Because they can't afford what we're offering. They just can't do it. The average person out there, and this was prior to the pandemic, had $4,400 in savings. $4,400 in savings. That was it. Now, half the U.S. population has no savings. So how what are you going to do? So how do I help patients move forward with all of the crowns or all of the dentistry they need. It doesn't have to be crowns. I use crowns just as an example. But here's how. Dentist diagnosis, $5,000 worth of work. Quad scales, plus this, plus that. And it's $5,000 worth of work. Patient says, well, will my insurance cover this? Well, yes, they will. Your portion is going to be $3,500. And they say, can we just do one, or I can only do a part of that? Or what can we, I want to maximize my insurance, and here's how we do it. Team member says, well, Bob, you could, but why don't we use your insurance as a down payment? We can work out convenient monthly payments as low as $85 a month. Why don't we just do that? And Dr. Baird can give you a pill and you can sleep and we can do all the work in one visit. Well, I will tell you, we've been doing this now for 9 years. I've never had a patient say no to this, ever. And neither would you. If I could pay $85 a month, I get all my work done at one time, sitting in the chair, boom, I'm done. That's the way you want it done, and that's the way your patients want it done. What they don't want to do, and what's the most inefficient thing for you to do, let's do one a year, because you're going to have to break down PPE every time. You're going to have to sterilize the room. You're going to have to start doing dentistry in the new normal very differently than you did before. If you think you're going to go back and do things the way you used to do it, like I say, I was in the office this morning. It's different, much less flow, much less people in there, but productivity is high. Why? Because we're doing bigger procedures in longer appointments. Which would you rather have? Practice on the left or practice on the right? They have patients that have $1,500 in insurance. They need $5,000 worth of work. Over on the left or right, practice on the right. Over here, you can see they get all their work done. You do their work in a single visit. You can offer sedation. Over here, they decide to do only what insurance will cover because they don't have money. And then they tell you, tell them, we can do $3,000 worth of work to maximize your insurance and your portion will be $1,500 and insurance is going to pay $1,500. Patient says, well, I just don't have $1,500. Okay, well, let's do this. Let's do $1,500 worth of dentistry. They'll pay $750 and insurance pays $750. Okay, let's see what that does. And let's just say you have 50 of these patients in your first month back. We're seeing on average 8 to 10 emergencies a day for the last 3 weeks. Why? Well, because there's pent-up demand. This is dentistry that can be done. The practice on the left will produce $1,500 per patient of just those 50 patients. I'm just using an example, or $75,000. The practice on the right will produce $5,000 per patient, or $250,000. Which one do you want to be? Yeah, Bruce, but what if they don't pay me over here? Well, let's talk about it. Patient had to come up with $37,500 in very difficult financial times, whereas over here, the patient had to pay zero out of pocket in very difficult financial times. Insurance pays the $75,000, not the patient. You also end up with $175,000 worth of short duration, high yield debt paper paying you over the next 12 to 60 months with interest. For those of you who don't understand that, write the word, debt paper, owning debt paper. That means somebody owes you money and they're paying you interest and they're paying you monthly payments. This is different than Care Credit, different than Wells Fargo, different than all those. Your action, plus most of these people would never even be approved by those. And let's get into that why. The herd mentality, be careful when you follow the masses because sometimes the M is silent. We've been pushed down this herd mentality in dentistry for 30 years. This is the way you do it. Offer Care Credit, offer Springs, offer whoever. Give them 12 months interest free. Do you realize that the 12% interest free that you're offering is taking away 37% of your profit in the average dental practice? So you're giving up 10%. And if you have a PPO, which we have a lot of mixed PPO, now you're already losing 30% and you're taking another 10% off the top. How do you make a living doing that? It's hard. It's very hard. That's why dentists are so unhappy. They're not making the kind of money. This is the time to transfer into the more fee-for-service practice. Compassionate finance, we're in it for good, the most innovative payment solution that makes dental and healthcare affordable for everyone. This company, I started 10 years ago in November. We've, it came after the 2008 financial crisis because I saw what was happening and we're seeing the same thing now. There's never been a better time to use Compassionate. Working with, what's your risk? Well, first of all, you're not putting up money. If you think about this, you're doing $10,000 worth of dentistry and you're not putting money up like Care Credit's putting up $9,000. They have to get paid or they go out of business because they're putting up cash. We're not putting up cash. I'm putting up my time. First of all, my hard costs are all covered because we always recommend that 20% down. So, 20% down. Now, if your overhead is higher than that for supplies and lab costs, I'm talking about specific hard costs, not electricity in the building. You're going to pay for that anyway. But I'm talking about getting your hard costs covered. So now it becomes, I'm going to put my time in and my time value is going to go up. And the other thing is interest offsets risk. That's something really, really important to understand, which is something we've never been taught. Banks know that. That's why they have giant buildings in all the major metropolitan areas. This is kind of a neat little slide that I put in. A and B patients are the ones that third-party financing likes to loan to, 661 up to 850. Now, what I will tell you is they won't approve everybody here. So let's just say it's a quarter of the Bs don't get approved. So now you get 90 cents on the dollar and they give you cash. And many dentists go, I love that. That's what I want. I'm all in. But what happens? What do people do for the C, Ds, and Es? Meaning for the fair credit, the poor credit, and the bad credit. Well, what I will tell you is, you say, we don't want to be the bank. I want to have something that is non-recourse for me. Well, you're going to lose all of these folks because what I want is recourse. I want interest. Interest means it's a recourse loan, but here's the deal. We know that this patient, the E patient, bad credit below 500 in 38 states, we can charge that patient 17.9% interest. Now, you might say, well, yeah, patients don't like paying that. Okay, guys, E patients are used to going to a pawn shop and paying 8% a month or 12% a month. They're used to going down to buy a car, not at the dealership, but at a place where they're paying 20% interest and 30% interest. The other part of this is we know now we have more what's called subprime data than anybody else in the world. So we know that E's default at about 17%, meaning 17%. That means 17 out of 100 default. Well, you might say, well, I never want to do that. Think about it. Get your little financial calculator out and figure out the E paying you for the full term of the loan. 83% of them pay the full term at 17.9% interest. The interest off of the other E's pays for the E that fails. So you can expect doing subprime, you're going to expect some defaults. But the interest, what I always tell people is if you see a default and you go, oh crap, this isn't working, compassionate finance isn't working, go to your dashboard and look at your dashboard. What you'll see is you're collecting 105% of your usual and customary fees or 102%. Anything above 90 is better than Care Credit unless you need cash today. Okay. I don't want to finance patients for more than 12 months. I hear this all the time. Well, I don't want them to pay me for more than 12 months. Well, let me show you why you do, why you want to be the bank. Two-year note, a $2,400 note, 1 year in term. And here, this little pie is interest. Now 2 years, now 3 years, now 4 years, now 5 years. I don't care if they tell me they need 5 years to pay. If this payment is going to work for them, that's what I want to have happen. So how do I totally fund my retirement plan? How do I pay off my student loans without affecting my take-home pay? What we recommend is when you're working with compassionate finance, you're actually starting another business. You can put an LLC on it. It's your finance business. It's over here on the left. It's next to your dental practice. The 20% down goes into your dental software. The 80% is like a PPO write-off. It goes to compassionate finance. You don't have to collect it. You don't have to worry about it. It's all done by compassionate. That money, within 5 years, you'll be making more money off of your finance company than you are in your dental practice. So let's see, how do I recession-proof my practice? Patients have $1,500 in insurance. They need $7,500 worth of work. The reason I said that is because if you multiply 1,500 times 5, that's 7,500, and that means that 1,500 is 20% down. So when I see somebody with 1,500 in insurance, I go, I can easily do $7,500 worth of dentistry on them. I accept the 1,500 insurance as their down payment, finance the remaining 6,000 for 60 months with an average 15.9. This is using a scenario 6,000. They go on the full 60 months. If you were doing less than 60 months, these numbers would be different. And the patient has payments of $145 a month. Most patients could afford the $145. They just can't afford $6,000 out of pocket. Does this make sense? One appointment with sedation, you're doing it all in one visit. So you're not being tied to jumping from chair to chair, especially during the new normal. And this new normal is going to last for a long time. You're going to help more patients. So let's assume a 20% default, which we know the worst of the worst is 17, and our overall default's around 11.5. But let's assume 20% and all the fees that compassionate finance charges, which I'll share with you in a minute. If you helped one patient a week with this $7,500 scenario, at the end of 12 months, you have monthly payments of about $5,500 a month coming in. Right now, we have dentists who have $40,000 a month coming in during the pandemic. You have a portfolio. This is not an account receivable. This is actually an asset. This is very different than account receivable. Account receivable, 30, 60, 90, 120. This is performing paper. If you started July of this year, by next July, doing one case a week, you're going to have 230,000. But at the end of 60 months, you'll have monthly payments about 28 grand coming in per month, and a portfolio of over $1 million by July of 2025. So, and this portfolio can be used to refinance your house. We've had docs that with their accounts, they've paid off their house. They bought an airplane. I mean, you can do whatever you want with that revenue. It's your secondary income. The face of compassionate finance. I mean, patients, we can help them. We can help folks that we couldn't help before. And I don't care if they're an A, a B, a C, a D, or an E. I really don't. We'll work on anybody because we have financial arrangements that work. What can you expect from compassionate? Help more patients by making care budget friendly for everyone, perform more comprehensive dentistry and single visits, generate more revenue, monthly payments with interest, industry leading cloud technology for evaluating risk and loan performance. We wrote software for one of the top 50 banks in the United States this past year. So, this software is amazing. And we have best in class training and customer support, and our experts manage every aspect of your loan contracts. We don't want your team out collecting this. It's an easy application. They fill out an online application, and this is something I'll show you. It says approved with 17.9%. What that tells you at 17.9 is that you happen to have an E patient. That's the worst of the worst. So you can expect to see a bad credit rating, but it says checking verified, meaning we went into their checking history. They write their checks on time. They don't write NSF funds. They're a pretty good steward of their money. So we know there's a good chance they're going to make the payments. Plus, we know that when we're doing lots of loans, that the interest offsets the risk. Now, you may get something here that says call for manual approval. Why would you ever, if we tell you this is bad and you see call for manual approval, why would you ever want to do that? Well, let's just say you had a patient that needed 4 implants. That's $8,000. And they say, Doc, all I got is $5,000. And I know it's going to take me an hour to do. Well, I'll tell you right now, I'm all in. I'll do my $5,000 cash, and I'll put those 4 implants in. I know my hard costs are covered. I know I'm making more money than most any dentist in the United States, and I'll take my chances on the $3,000. But I definitely want them to pay if they can, and that's where we'll put them on financing. They get to select. We have a patient says, well, Doc, I think I can do $286 a month. Or they said they'll talk to Summer, and Summer will say, well, you could, but why don't you just do $144? It makes it easy, And what does it also do? Well, it increases the length of time they have to pay. And don't worry, you can prepay at any time. We tell the patient. So make it affordable payments for them because you don't want them to default. There's a retail installment contract that's done. There's tons of dashboards. You can look at all of your data. Uh, you know, we bill and collect from patients via ACH each month. We do direct deposit on Fridays every week. We provide all customer service, and we initiate collections when it's necessary. So emails, text messages, and phone calls. We've done over 20 million in interest paid out, over 100 million in notes. The pricing to do this with Compassionate, we've had a $1,500 setup fee forever, and a software licensing of $199 a month, which allows you to do unlimited credit checks. You can do as many credit checks as you want, and a portfolio management fee of $4 per transaction. So once a month, it's $4, and then 0.5% of your previous months, not of your previous months, of your current portfolio balance of principal. So if you had 100,000 in paper out there, you're going to be paying CF about $500. It's basically a volume game. We've waived the account setup fee. We've waived the software licensing fee until July 1st. So this is a perfect opportunity for you to do it. There's no obligation. You can decide, hey, I don't like it. Same thing with Abella. We've waived the monthly fee and the account setup fee. And if you don't know about Abella, we'll make sure we connect you with the webinar that I've done on that. So, and let's go ahead.
Let's see what we have here. But yeah, Dr. Baird, you said it. You can save $1,500 on Compassionate Finance setup fee right now and $1,000 on the Abella setup fee, and not have to make the monthly licensing payment until July 1st. I wouldn't wait on this. I know we got about 45 days left, but you can get in, get trained, and we have practices that have reopened that have gotten trained and done a loan the same day with Compassionate Finance. So you can really get up and running pretty quickly. So let's go to the questions. Okay, so I thought this was certainly worth reviewing. I kind of answered it. Let's see here. Do you suggest having a separate iPad for Compassionate Finance, or just trust the patient to contact Compassionate Finance for the setup?
Yeah, you could have. You're gonna have a separate iPad in the office, and it'll be, you can go right through it and have them fill out the application right there on the iPad. I would have one in the office. They're so inexpensive. Any kind of tablet would work.
Yeah, it's a 30-second in-chair approval. It's a real quick system. Can fill it out right there.
They can also fill it out on their computer at home or wherever. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah, you'll have a link on the website. Often we do. Maybe if you give them one of our marketing brochures, we have patients who contact us, and we ask them where they heard about it and everything. And we have actually facilitated some mechanics on our side, but that ace in the hole really is that tablet that's chair side. Let's see here. A lot of people put some good questions in the chat, so let me see if I can pick some of them off here. Okay. All right. I have a largely Medicaid practice, but within it there are a lot of denture patients that would do implants, but don't have credit for traditional types of credit like care credit financing. They pay their bills. I would love to do compassionate finance for this avenue. Do you think this would work for this particular demographic?
It absolutely works. In fact, Compassionate is probably used more in those locales than anywhere else around the country. As long as you're doing multiple loans and you set it up to say, okay, I will do, and the way to do this is to do, we've set up, 2 implants with dentures. This is the fee. 4 implants all on 4 on the bottom with an upper denture. That's the fee. So we set the fees up, and then we figure out what does our down payment need to be. On some of these, it's a little higher than 20%. It depends on what your lab's charging you. So you want to make sure you cover those hard costs. And then the truth is, it's about your time. And if you can get in doing that, and I would worry if we have lots of docs doing all on 4s. They're doing $30,000, $40,000 loans, which I would seriously worry about, except for the fact that they're doing a bunch of them. One loan, you're at risk. You do 10 loans, 15 loans, 20 loans. Now remember the interest offsets the risk. So just remember that. So yes, it works great for that. And it helps patients. I don't care, A, B, C, D, or E. I don't care. I'm willing to do the work, get my hard costs covered, and my time value goes way, way up. Go back to that example of doing 250,000 in dentistry over those 50 patients and doing 75,000. Who do you think's value is greater? It's a no-brainer. So it really works.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of a follow-up question to that was, why not use compassionate finance for every class of credit? Could you just use compassionate finance exclusively?
Yeah, you can. And I can send you like an Excel spreadsheet, but yes, you can do that. If you decide, hey, I don't want to take that 10% hickey on every time I'm doing care credit. We have a lot of docs, they've eliminated third-party financing, and people always worry, well, what about cash flow? I'm going to have real problems with cash flow. Out of the thousands of doctors we've worked with, we've never had someone call and say, we're really having problems because our cash flow's down. What we found on the flip side is these are all, the way to look at this is, let's just use an assumption you're doing 100,000 a month. If you did 25,000 in compassionate, it will not affect your 100,000 you've been doing. These are people who are saying no, they can't afford it, they're leaving. And that means that all of your marketing dollars, or all the patients that come in, whether you're a PPO or not, you can do max dentistry on them and allow them to pay over time. And you'll find that you're getting higher than your fee for service. So I don't know what the average is. That'd be something good, but I think it's probably 5% average, 6% average above usual and customary fee. So that's a 16% swing for you. So it does work very well.
All right, perfect. Well, Dr. Baird, that's all the questions we have for today. I think, as always, a fantastic job expanding compassionate finance, really some great stuff. We kind of have one more question come in. I'm concerned about the
abdication.
Abdication if relationship between patient and office, they're financed through CF.
The relationship is between you and the patient, no question. What compassionate looks at, and what I wanted when I started the company, as a dentist, I wanted a company, a third party, even though it's my financing. I wanted it to be a third party that could send them to collections, that I could go, hey, it is what it is, and so we just have rarely had problems. And as far as collections on these folks, there's so few of them. I mean, it's they pay. And if they can't, like right now, the neat thing about compassion is when we're talking to patients, we go, well, why don't you just skip this month and we'll add it to the back end. So we're able to very easily help patients stay on track because your work was already done. If we tell them we're going to skip this month, we don't take a fee. So if we don't collect, we don't take a fee. So we're just trying to keep them paying, and that's what we do. But the relationships between you and the patient, and having that option, they will love you. They will love you. They'll tell other people, well, you can pay monthly payments. You focus on the monthly payments, not the interest. If you're focusing on interest, first of all, an E deserves 17.9% interest. They do. And that's just the way it is.
All right, perfect. Well, why don't we go ahead and close it down for the day, Dr. Baird? I know
there's one that says it seems you dilute risk. What was that? Did you see that?
Yeah, let me see if I can pull that up here. Here we go. It seems that you dilute risk if you sign up all classes of risk with CF, correct? Rather than putting good/excellent credit risks on care credit.
100% sure. And that's really where I'll be honest with everybody here, which I always am, but we're considering lowering the cost of the A's and B's just so you'll do more, because your risk profile drops drastically if you're doing A's and B's. So you're right on, Doug, with that. I mean, it's definitely that. So.
All right, perfect. Well, I think that'll wrap it up for today. I just put a link where you can sign up for our next webinar. That will be Wednesday. So it's going to be 5 things you must do in facing the new normal. So this is going to be a good one. And I know a lot of you have been with us through several of these webinars. We're going to be wrapping them up next week. So do join us for these next couple. They're going to be really good, really informative. And we will in the month of June have some other webinar opportunities for you to join us. They might be in the evening where some more folks are able to join us who might have recently reopened their practice.
We're really excited about getting back to work for everybody. And I was in today at the office. Things are going much better than I anticipated. And so that gives me some real hope that the dental industry is going to recoup much faster than even I thought. Now, whether the economy does that, I don't know, but that's where compassionate finance is going to become a must do. I would also recommend, if you're going to sign up for Compassionate or Abella, do it now, because they're getting backed up on training. Like I say, we're signing up 10 a day, 10 to 15 a day. And so it's important to get it done. So that way, when you do start back, maybe in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, or maybe now, at least you have some additional options that you can help people. So, this is just huge. And I just want you to think different. This is the opportunity to think different. So thank you guys. I appreciate it. We'll be back on Wednesday and Thursday, and we'll get it all done. So thanks. Have a good day.